All right, guys. Wait till everybody get in. Always first. I got an interesting one today. I just found. Just gotta wait for everyone to get in. Song you're thinking? Bryson's getting his grandfather. Brother Chad. Hey Brandon, is Bryson getting his grandfather? That would be nice. There you are. Now I think we just waiting for Israel, and then we'll have everyone. There you are. I think that's only waiting for Israel. So while you guys are here, I have this little app here that keeps up with the moon cycles. And if you notice, on the 7th, we have a full moon. Now, on this one, for some reason, it shows that the full moon here is at 98%. And then on the 8th, which is Passover by the Hebrew calendar, is the full moon. It's saying that the full moon is on, it looks like it's on the 7th, and then on the 8th is Passover. But it shows that that day is 100%. So I thought that was interesting. And I actually wanted to show you guys why I think that's important, because I just seen a thing just now from Fox. They say that this supermoon, not supermoon, but this pink moon is coming out right here. Right here it says, I'll make sure I move that without closing. So it says, the space agency explains that the moon will be perceived at 2 p.m. on April 7th. So we're going to have this like pink moon before the Sabbath. We're going to have this pink moon, which is kind of I think that's pretty interesting. It's talking about, so April, you have a full moon. It's as a pink moon. Now, I think that's really interesting how that's popping up right before the Passover. Because if you notice, what we talked about before is that we're in the last 7 years, but not like the last 7 for the end of everything, but the last 7 into the Great Gathering. Now, just to go over that again, because I feel it's always important to go over it every time we start up, how we're getting these dates and how we know. Now, we don't know the day, we don't know the hour. We got to make sure we know that. We do not know the day, we do not know the hour, because that's not told to us. No one, actually, I don't think anyone has that, the day or the hour. But we do have the year. And let's pull up this simple note again. And first, make sure everyone's here. Yep. All right. So now, if we remember, we're basing this off of Daniel 12, where it tells us that he says, "Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." And then remember, it says, "From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days." Now, we have to know that there is actually three different sacrifices that are taken away in the book of Daniel. There's three different sacrifices. That's why it's important to study all the prophecies in order to even make a decision on this. You have to know about the 2,300 day prophecy. You have to know about the 70 weeks prophecy. And then we can get to the final prophecy, which, as it says, it won't be revealed until the time of the end. It's like it says right there, to the time of the end. That's the only time we will understand it, because as the scripture says, knowledge would increase. It's important to note that the reason why we know this now is because of the knowledge we have today. And to the time of the end, it talks about the end again here. It says, "How long shall this be?" They talk about the end of these wonders. And even here it says, "Shut the words up and seal the book even till the time of the end." So it's saying that this will be revealed into the time of the end. And then I believe it's somewhere over here where it talks about knowledge shall increase. Right here in Daniel 12 and 4, it says, "But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Now look how many times it stresses how this was going to be revealed in the time of the end. Right here, I didn't even notice that it said it on this part too. It says, right here, it says, "Even to the time of the end," right here. And again here, "How long until the end of these things?" And then it tells us again here, "What shall be the end of these things?" They want to know what's the end, like what's the end of these things. And then it tells us that the words are closed until the time of the end. So we are in those days. We're in the and we know it for sure because we're in the last part of the Bible, where we know we're in around the 6,000 year. We're around the 6,000 year, and is 100% fact. If you take the genealogies from the book of Genesis and calculate them all the way up to Yeshua, Jesus, we get to the time where it's 4,000 years. And then from there, we know that it's been 2,000 years. So from that, we had the 6,000 year period. And we know that Jesus is going to reign for 1,000 years. That'll be the 7,000th year. And there's a very famous scripture, he will bind us up. I think it's bind. No. Or was it heal? In 2 days. Let's look. Right here in Hosea. Right here it says, "After 2 days he will revive us." It's revive us. So after 2 days he will revive us. Now this can also be used for when Jesus was resurrected. Because if you know, it took 3 days for him to be resurrected, and he actually quoted somewhere in scripture. He said, "As he's going to do all things as the scripture says." And it says right here, "After 2 days he will revive us So we know that Jesus revived. He came back to life on the third day. So why does it say he's going to revive us in 2 days? Because after Yeshua was crucified, 2,000 years passed. As the scripture says, 1,000 years is in his eye as a day, and a day is as 1,000 years. So it's just giving understanding for his scripture. So it's saying in 2 days he's going to revive us. So in 2 days he's going to gather us. He's going to bring us up, and he's going to revive the world, as the scripture says. The renewing, as everyone's going to be renewed. And then it says, just like how it says before, because we know that Israel had failed, and they know that Yeshua said that they were going to captivity in every nation. So it says, "Come and let us return to the Lord, for he has torn, and he will heal us. He has smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us." And then note here, in the third day he will rise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Now think about that. Why does it say that we'll be risen up and then we'll live in his sight? Because if you know, the scripture tells us that the first person we live with for 1,000 years is Yeshua. It's lagging. He says he revives us, and then the third day he rises up, and we shall live in his sight. It's talking about living in the Father's sight. So we'll be able to be in front of him, receive the tree of life, and basically that'll be the end of everything. That'll be basically the dream right there. That's the end of everything. So that's why understanding these calculations, they basically point to each other. And what's the interesting thing is that this prophecy actually goes to exactly 2,000 years, 599 BC. And it's important to, know history also with these things. And that's why history points out that it was in 599 BC when this happened. And then we take the reason why we're turning, because if you know, the scripture is actually talking about where what it reads, it says days. So if you go to Daniel 11 and 12, 12, 11 and 12, it says, "From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, an abomination that makes desolate set up, and there shall be 1,290 days." Now, why is we turning days to years here? It's because it's saying that it will be to the time of the end. So it's saying that this is going to be a stretch. Now, not to be confused with the times and a half, because the same scripture that talks about these days also talks about the time and a half. Now, we know that they're two different things because of this scripture. It makes it clear. And it tells us where they stood on the water, and they asked, "What will be the end of these things?" And the man in linen, and if you remember, we already talked about who the man in linen is, and that's Yeshua. The man in linen held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him that lives forever, that it shall be for a times and a half. So that's the times and a half. That's the 1,260 days, or 42 months, or 3.5 years. That's not to be confused, to be changed. That's exactly what the time that it says, that Revelation gives us the answer to. We know the answer to this. We don't have to change this to anything. We know that this is exactly 3.5 years. It's verified, especially in scripture, when it clarifies that it's exactly 3.5 years when the second woe happens. We know that that's the times and a half. Now we don't have to change that. So since it's kind of like a puzzle, the more pieces you put together, the more clear the picture becomes. As you put more pieces together, but you can't rush it. Just like a puzzle, you can't rush pieces. You can't force it. Yep, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties, it seems. Let me see. Okay, the live broke. Let's try it. Let's reopen this close.